Hey, my name is Jen. I have a podcast called Beyond the Alphabet, and it talks about my testimony. Now, the thing about my social media is there is a cornucopia of everything. That's my niche. Cornucopia is my niche. You're going to hear or you're going to see stuff about my dogs, a lot of stuff about my dogs. You're going to see a lot of stuff about hiking, and you're going to hear a lot of stuff about my testimony, and you're going to hear a lot of stuff about God, because I love me some God, and God has changed my life. And speaking of God, last week I was in my car, I was having my daily encounter time, and I kept thinking to myself, like, God, what is this whole thing with WNBA and men and women's sports and just the attack on women, the attack on children? Like, what is going on, and how does that pertain to me, and why is it so heavy on my heart, and why am I feeling that that's what you want me to talk about, and that's what you want me to really kind of focus on? So what I did was I hit record on my phone, and I just started spilling. I came home tonight, and I was going to do a recap of that, and I was going to put it on my social media, and I started to listen to it, and I started to record, and it just kept stopping me. The Lord kept stopping me, and he said, Jen, this is the raw testimony that I've provided to you. Why would you try to recap what I gave to you? And I thought, I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to attach it here. There's no picture. There's no fun, there's no fun video of my face, but it is raw, and it is what the Lord and I spoke about on my way to work during my daily encounter. So check it out. So I'm just thinking about something. I'm sitting here driving, and I'm thinking about, like, the WNBA, and, like, how does that, like, what's going on? Obviously it's all demonic, right? And how does that play into, what God's called me to do? And it really comes down to what does God think about the whole thing? And in all reality, we all know that transgenderism is a mental health situation, and it's a body dysphoria type of situation. It's a grooming, it's a environmental, it's a learned behavior, it's a trend. It's the same thing as, back in the day, being a lesbian or sleeping with girls was a trend. It was like a thing, like, oh yeah, I'm lesbian because that's the cool thing to do. So being trans became cool, and then it became something that was an excuse that pedophiles could use, people that want to prey on women or prey on children could use as a disguise to get themselves into spaces that they normally couldn't get themselves into. So it just expanded their wheelhouse. It expanded their playing ground, as for a lack of a better term. Instead of them being just, because a lot of them maybe couldn't get jobs in schools, or didn't go to church or anything like that, which are areas where a lot of children are, and that's where pedophiles are going to be. That's why you see so much of it in the Catholic Church, because it's a learned behavior. It was done to them, so they're going to do it to somebody else, and so on and so forth. So that's why you see it so much. So I'm sitting here thinking about how the WNBA plays into this, and with their transgenderism that's coming in, and these professional basketball players that are declaring the 2027 draft, which I think is hysterical, actually, because it's people think that that's so ludicrous and it's ungenuine, and I believe that the transgender world is exactly the same thing. That these people coming in to women's spaces as trans are disingenuous with their actions, and it's not just about them wanting to be able to have their entire world surrounded by something that they think is reality, but it's not, because they're never going to be women, and they want to be a part of that, which they're just not able to because they're men. And it doesn't matter whether you can beat a man at a sport or you can't. None of that matters. Or if it's dangerous or anything, none of that matters. What matters is that women be able to continue to have women's spaces without men interfering. It doesn't matter if they're transgender or, they're all biological men, but it doesn't matter if they're, men, or if they're playing a woman because they just want to come into that sport and they want to get that, or if they're trying to work the system because that's something that happens a lot. None of that matters. It does matter, but it doesn't matter as much as the fact that these are women's sports. They are spaces for women that we fought for. All the other stuff doesn't matter. So the WNBA trying to figure out, quote unquote, what a woman is, shame on them. It's demonic behavior. When I speak to God about these situations and say, what is going on here, God? Why is this such an infestation into the women's world? And it's because Satan hates women. He has hated women and he's wanted to dispose of them from the beginning. It goes all the way back to Adam and Eve. And this is his way of eliminating them. There's several other ways that are going on in the world right now of eliminating them. It would be transgenderism, so puberty blockers for kids, abortion, Islamists, the Islam regime. All these things are things to try to take everything away from women and try to set us back and eliminate women, and that is demonic behavior. That is the devil. The stuff going on in Massachusetts with the abortion up to birth, it's all demonic behavior. And when it comes back to the WNBA, this is all demonic behavior. So each and every one of these coaches, first of all, shame on them. Shame on them for being political, because it's not that this is what they're doing. It's the political thing for them. Some of these women are gay. They don't want to upset their own community. They don't want to upset their fans. So they're being soft about what they believe, which is disgusting as far as women are concerned. As women, we need to stand up and be strong and tactful about what we're doing. Any woman that's played in sports, and these women should be able to take the stand and be able to do it tactfully. Are they great coaches? Probably, obviously. But they need to take a stand and say, hey, we respect you and what you're doing, because they do. I think that they genuinely respect what transgenders are doing, and they want to support them. However, this is a space for biological women. Let's look at areas where you can play, where you are able to play. Because you can't tell me that in other areas we got men just exactly like these NBA players are doing, and they're not on estrogen, they're just dominating. It's making a joke out of women, and women are making a joke out of themselves, and that's embarrassing. I personally cannot even fathom why these coaches would say the things that they say. Like, I don't have enough scientific proof about whether they're actually women or not. That is one of the most ridiculous, there's a lot of ridiculous statements I've heard, but that is one of the most ridiculous statements I have ever heard. And that is one of the most, what's the word I want to say? She's a coward for saying that. Because you don't have a backbone. You want to play like you're this big, tough coach and you have this winning team, which you do, and you're this big, strong woman. No, you're a freaking coward is what you are. Because you can't stand up for biological women. I don't care if we don't have the same political views. I don't care if we don't have the same views on what transgenderism is and how it comes about. And if you work in the industry that is dominated by women and has been fought for by women, and you don't understand the quote-unquote scientific part behind transitioning, then you're not doing your job. Because part of your job is to understand why men want to come into women's sports and have a stand on it. That's part of your job, whether you like it or not. And that's what she should be doing. But that's not what they're doing, because they don't want to upset people, because being trans is such a political topic now and such a hot topic because the community has made it that way. Instead of just coming out and celebrating themselves, because that's what the community does, they celebrate themselves. It's very selfish, self-centered. And transitioning on their own dime, not everybody else's dime. They can't afford it, so anyway, that's a different topic. On their own dime, and just going through the transition and doing all the things that they need to do, they got to make this big, huge ordeal about it. And so now it's a big ordeal. now it's, people are not ever going to agree with it. You're not going to change people's minds that didn't agree with it before. And definitely now that you've made such a debacle out of the community, they're definitely not going to go for it now. People aren't, the percentage of people that change their minds about it is not going to happen. You know, so I'm praying about the WNBA because women's sports is such a close thing for me. And being a woman, as a person who hated themselves so incredibly bad that I would either, one, not want to be here anymore, or two, I would want to transition so I could be somebody else. I will never be somebody else. I'll always be me. I'll always be me, just with different hormones in my body that are synthetic and been put in my body. So I will always be Jen, because I was born Jen. I was born a girl. And so that's why this whole topic of men and women's sports is such a hot topic to me, because it's the devil's work, and we fight against the devil. We fight against this spiritual war that is out there, and the men coming into women's sports is a spiritual war. When we see the WNBA, people make a joke about it. A lot of men do as well, because they don't think that a lot of the basketball players are very good, and some of them aren't. But I'm going to tell you right now, there's some men in the NBA that are horrible, and I'm not a big LeBron James fan. I think that he should be on the soccer field with his dramatics that he does. And I think it happens in any professional sport. I also don't think that professional sports players should get paid the amount of money that they do at all. So this is why it hits me so hard, because the WNBA could be just an amazing thing, and it could be an amazing thing for girls that like to play basketball, that want to continue their life in sports and be able to play like the guys do. And that's a continuous fight. But when we start allowing men, it doesn't matter if they want to take all the hormones and all that kind of stuff, they're men. So when we talk about transgenders coming in to women's sports, then we're stepping backwards. We're not holding the sanctity of what people fought for. And that's a problem. We need to continue to fight for biological women. I don't care what your personal opinion is. This is a woman's sport. We're not here to coddle people. We're not here to make people feel better. This is women's sports. And it's not a question on what is a woman, because it's very clear on what women are. It's very clear on what girls are. And girls, young girls, should be able to have the dream to play in the WNBA one day without having men taking their spots or putting them in a spot where they can't play, or even with, now they're going to start putting them into high school sports, because they already do that. And now, so it's taking away the sanctity and taking away the pureness of what the sport is about. And it's about women playing professional basketball is what it's about. And we need to continue to fight against the spiritual warfare that's going on by the devil, who hates women. And that is exactly why this is happening. He hates women, so he's infiltrating into people's, he's got his little demons out there working in these coaches' lives. I can't even tell you how disgusted I am with these coaches. I can't. As a coach and a leader, you are to lead your team in every single area. So when we talk about coaches, you have some people on your team that are going to be okay with transgenders. They're not going to agree with you playing sport. And then you're going to have others that don't believe in it. And for whatever reason, people think that this is a Christian thing. It's not. There's non-Christians out there that don't believe that men should be in women's sports. This is not a Christian thing. For me, I'm going to talk about it with God and say, yeah, God doesn't agree with transgenderism, but because he made you perfect in the beginning. But as a coach and as a leader, it is your job to be able to step in and diffuse the situation and talk to your players on a professional and coaching and mentoring level, so that you guys can have a conversation. If you have the respect of your players, like all these players say they respect their coaches, then they're going to respect you, how you're mentoring them and how you're talking to them about, these are women's sports. And the alternative to that would be, let's have a league where trans can play. Let's just have a league where it's a transgender league. And then you can have trans women and trans men play against each other. I don't know where the problem is with that. People may go see it and they may not. You probably don't have enough people because trans are not a huge population. They're becoming more and more and more because of all the grooming and all the stuff the past administration has done. But there's such a small percentage of the population. So when it comes to women's sports, shame on the coaches. You need to be better women. You need to be better, solid women for women. Walk the talk. You want to fight to be able to coach. You want to be able to, people to recognize you as a good coach and not a joke, and you're making a joke out of a sport that women should be able to play in and have respect in. And little girls should be able to grow up and say, hey, I want to go do that. I want to do that. I want to play in the WNBA. I want to play for that coach. Or I want to play for these players, the Caitlin Clarks, the Sophie Cunninghams, who eventually will become coaches maybe one day. I want to play with them or I want to play for them. And build solid leaders. Build solid leaders to be able to decipher in a conversation how to be proper in speaking to your players. Because when you back down and you weaken your spine on something that you're supposed to be completely strong on and completely educated on and completely solid, have a solid foundation and understanding of, and you should be the spokesperson for what's going on, and you back down and say, I don't really know enough about it, you were just trying to save face so that you don't get your hands dirty. So I pray for the WNBA because I think it's important for girls to be able to have that goal. I pray for women's sports. We're going to stand firm against the devil and denounce anything that he's trying to do to women right now. And we're just going to continue to fight. And I'm going to continue to call other women that have been in women's sports to stand up and start speaking out. Because we need more and more and more women to speak out that have a solid foundation. If you don't know a lot about this, start digging. Start freaking digging. Start talking to your friends that have lived the lifestyle. Start talking to people like myself, or there's a lot of us out there. Start talking to detransitioners. Start doing the research so that you understand what's going on. Because we're not here to just be like, oh, everybody's included. Not everybody's. We got to get out of the participation trophy mindset. You win or you lose. You win or you lose. We don't have to participate in everything to make everybody feel better. It doesn't make the world kumbaya. It actually divides the world. We need to set some structure, a solid foundation on these types of topics. And we need strong leaders. And the WNBA leaders are making a mockery of women. They're making a mockery of their league. You got co-owners flailing out. People can't even hold, it's just ridiculous. We need some thick-skinned, solid foundation, able to communicate leaders in the WNBA that can sit down and say, hey, we're not going to do this. We support you. We love you. We're not going to do this because this is not what our league is about. Our league is about biological women coming in, setting goals for themselves, and being able to play a professional sport and growing our fan base and being solid leaders and examples of what women should be doing. I don't care about your faith. That has nothing to do with it. For me, it does. And for people of the faith, it really does. But we need to be solid women leaders. And if you're bowing down to the devil's work, you're not being a solid leader, you're a coward. Stand up. Build the foundation. Speak up. I should be seeing more women speaking up against this and talking about it, not just the people on platforms, but the small people like myself that don't really have a platform. Because your words could reach out to somebody. And if you are supporting this, let's have a conversation. I would love to have a conversation with you. That's it. I gotta go. Later.